2-month trial. Karen Reed and her family, they regularly spoke with reporters outside the courthouse, but Officer John O'Keefe's friends and family, they have remained largely silent.
Who killed John O'Keefe, and who's trying to hide the truth? A decorated Boston police officer, a beloved family man, found dead in the snow outside a fellow cop's house in the middle of a blizzard. Was it a tragic accident fueled by alcohol and a lover's quarrel, or the result of a brutal assault covered up by people sworn to protect and serve? How does a respected officer end up lifeless outside a house full of law enforcement insiders? Why were there delays in processing evidence? Why did key details go missing? And why did the story change again and again? This is the story of John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, a case that has ignited public outrage, inspired protests, and split a community in two. He was a hero, raising his orphaned niece and nephew, known for his integrity and compassion. She was his girlfriend, now accused of murdering him with her SUV and leaving him to die in the cold. But is she a cold-blooded killer? Or a scapegoat in a conspiracy reaching deep into Massachusetts law enforcement? Did Karen Reed strike John O'Keefe after a drunken argument? Or was he beaten inside a fellow officer's house, then dumped outside as part of a coordinated cover-up? This isn't just about one death. It's about power, loyalty, and the lengths people will go to protect their own. And at the center of it all is the question everyone wants answered. Who's telling the truth, and who's hiding behind a badge? John J. O'Keefe III was a dedicated Boston police officer whose tragic death on January 29, 2022 has sparked national attention and controversy. Known to friends and family as Johnny or JJ, O'Keefe was born on December 8, 1975, in Braintree, Massachusetts. He graduated from Braintree High School and Northeastern University, later earning a master's degree in criminal justice from UMass Lowell. At the time of his death, O'Keefe had served with the Boston Police Department for 16 years and was well regarded by colleagues and the community. O'Keefe's life was marked by resilience and compassion. After his sister and brother-in-law died within months of each other, he stepped in to raise their two children in Canton. He also supported the girlfriend of fellow officer Pat Rogers, his best friend who died by suicide, and became a godfather and father figure to her son. Those close to him remember O'Keefe as selfless and deeply loyal. On January 29, 2022, O'Keefe was found unresponsive in the snow outside the home of fellow officer Brian Albert in Canton, Massachusetts. Hours earlier, he had been out drinking with his girlfriend, Karen Reed, and other friends. According to Reed, she dropped O'Keefe off at Albert's house and left because she wasn't feeling well. Later, concerned about his whereabouts, she returned to look for him and discovered him lying in the snow in freezing temperatures. Despite efforts to revive him, he was pronounced dead at the hospital. The medical examiner determined that O'Keefe died from blunt force trauma to the head, hypothermia, and other injuries. Prosecutors allege that Reed struck O'Keefe with her SUV after an argument and left him to die during a snowstorm. Broken glass and tail light fragments matching her vehicle were found near his body. Karen Reed, a 45-year-old former finance expert, now finds herself at the center of a high-profile second trial. The stakes are enormous, not just for her, but for the credibility of law enforcement and the pursuit of justice for Officer John O'Keefe. Reed was an adjunct professor at Bentley University and an analyst at Fidelity Investments before the incident. The couple had been together for 2 years, but their relationship was reportedly tumultuous toward the end, as highlighted by text messages and voicemails presented by prosecutors. Karen Reed has been charged with second-degree murder, vehicular manslaughter while under the influence of alcohol, and leaving the scene of an accident causing death. Prosecutors argue that she was intoxicated, and their case hinges on 3 main pillars: physical evidence, including tail light fragments at the scene, incriminating statements allegedly made by Reed, such as, "Did I hit him?" and text messages that suggest tension in the couple's relationship prior to O'Keefe's death. However, Reed has pleaded not guilty and claims she is the victim of a cover-up involving law enforcement. Her defense team presents an alternate theory that O'Keefe was attacked inside Albert's house during a party, and his body was staged outside afterward. They allege that several law enforcement figures, some with personal or professional ties to Albert, protected him from scrutiny. The defense has pointed to numerous inconsistencies in the investigation. Among them are reports of missing evidence, mismanaged crime scene protocols, and questionable conduct by officers involved. A crash reconstruction expert hired by the defense also testified that O'Keefe's injuries did not match those typically seen in pedestrian vehicle strikes. Karen Reed's attorneys have named several individuals they believe are involved in the alleged cover-up, including Brian Albert and Jennifer McCabe. They argue that these parties had motive and connections powerful enough to influence the investigation's direction. A federal reconstruction expert hired independently concluded that O'Keefe's injuries were inconsistent with being struck by Karen Reed's SUV. This finding undermines the prosecution's argument that her vehicle caused his death. The first trial, which began in April 2024, ended in a mistrial in July due to a hung jury. Reports suggest that 4 jurors voted to acquit Reed of both second-degree murder and leaving the scene of an accident. A retrial has been scheduled for April 1st, 2025, at Norfolk Superior Court. In the meantime, defense lawyers have filed motions to dismiss the case, citing governmental misconduct and constitutional protections against double jeopardy. In 2023, a federal grand jury also investigated aspects of O'Keefe's death, but no charges were filed against any parties. Meanwhile, O'Keefe's family has filed a civil wrongful death lawsuit against Karen Reed and 2 Canton bars where the couple had been drinking on the night of the incident. The suit alleges negligence on the part of Reed and the establishments for over-serving alcohol. Witnesses at Brian Albert's house claimed O'Keefe never entered the home, while defense experts testified that his injuries were more consistent with an assault than a vehicle strike. To make matters even more complex, YouTuber Jerry Callahan and blogger Turtle Boy have played public roles in covering the case. Kearney has been accused of witness intimidation after publicly confronting individuals involved and sharing non-public information online, adding yet another layer of controversy to the case. The case has deeply divided public opinion. Supporters of Karen Reed have organized vocal rallies and adopted slogans like "Free Karen Reed," asserting her innocence and pointing to flaws in the investigation. Others argue the evidence against her is substantial, especially considering her alleged intoxication and tail-light debris found near O'Keefe's body. Crowds frequently gather outside court hearings, underscoring the case's intensity and far-reaching interest. Defense attorneys recently filed motions to dismiss charges based on alleged prosecutorial misconduct and constitutional violations against double jeopardy protections. Jury selection for the retrial began on April 1st, 2025. This case has raised serious questions about police loyalty, accountability, and whether systemic biases can obstruct justice in cases involving law enforcement personnel. As jury selection begins for Karen Reed's retrial, several critical questions remain unanswered. Was John O'Keefe struck by Karen Reed's SUV, or was he attacked inside Brian Albert's home? Why are there apparent flaws in the investigation, including missing or mismanaged evidence? And what role did tension in Reed and O'Keefe's relationship play in the tragedy? As Karen Reed heads back to court for her second trial, the stakes couldn't be higher, not just for her, but for everyone involved. Was this the tragic result of a relationship gone wrong, or the unraveling of a deeply rooted cover-up inside a close-knit law enforcement community? The evidence, the contradictions, the unanswered questions, they've turned a local tragedy into a national spectacle. But in the end, only one version of the story can be true. As the trial unfolds, the nation watches, waiting for justice, and for the truth to finally come out.